Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of the Jegna and The Thinker. I'm the Jegna, Brandon Jones. He's the thinker, Aaron. Aaron, how you doing, man?
Doing well, doing well. I know I was getting on you. Them Vikings decided they were gonna. They said, you know what, we gonna be the team to lose to the Lions today. So
Yeah, and typical Viking fashion, we tend to show up when we should not show up in the worst ways. But
right,
every week is like this. Every week we either win game real close or we lose a game we shouldn't lose. But that's
right.
the life of a Minnesota sports fan. We don't have too much to get excited about. We cherish moments, not.
Oh. We are live, y'all. I think Brandon just got kicked out, so hold tight. Hope everybody is having a great. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't know. I start talking about. I got kicked off. Man.
You got kicked off.
Where'd I go?
Yeah. No, I was gonna say the young boy that plays. I'm an NBA guy, but the young boy that plays.
Oh yeah,
for the Timberwolves. Listen.
Yeah, hey, he's the truth, man. That's gonna be our shining light for 4 years. He's gonna dip out. He's gonna dip out.
He's gonna get a bag and leave. I got you.
Yeah, he's gonna get a bag and leave. But man, that dude, man, he don't be playing around, boy. Like he'll take off from anywhere. His shooting's improved. But the thing that people don't realize about Edwards is that his defense is super solid, and he's just getting started, man.
Oh, he's great. I watched him, and I was like, he takes shots that most pros don't take. Like he's not just playing off athletic ability. So I was extremely impressed. I'm extremely impressed.
Yeah, the league got some young talent. Him and John Morant, I think, gonna be the two faces in about 5-6 years for sure.
Absolutely,
cool, man.
Absolutely.
But how are things going on your neck of the woods?
Everything is good, man. It hasn't been really challenging, but it's end of the year. And so in my business, we're pretty busy. We have a lot of new construction projects going. So all these clients are trying to get into their properties by the end of the year. So, I have no complaints on our end. I'm not really a Baltimore Ravens fan. I like Lamar Jackson. And so I just finished watching that game and they lost the game, but I thought it was interesting. They lost at the last second, but they went for 2 when they could have tied the game.
They could have tied it. Yeah. They gambled.
But I like the fact that the coach believed in his black quarterback, and we're going to talk about some things. But I like the fact that even though they lost, the coach believed in their black quarterback.
And it wasn't his fault either. Mark Andrews
should have caught that ball.
Should have caught that pass.
Yeah, he should have caught that ball.
I got him on my fantasy team.
It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a perfect pass, Brandon. He should have caught the ball. Let's be real.
Yeah, he should have caught it. I got him on my fantasy team. I needed them 2 points. Damn it. All right. Yeah. Cool, man. Cool. Well, on today's episode, we are going to do a year in review of Black men. It has been, we can say the last 2 years have been extremely challenging for many people due to the pandemic and adjustments. And we've seen all types of things happen during this time. And what we want to do is spend a little bit of time just reviewing the last, 11 to 12 months of how have Black men fared in this year. And we're going to spend time talking about that during this show. And the next show, we're going to talk about some of the opportunities and plans and maybe even some predictions for Black men in 2022. So we encourage you all to share both in the chat on Facebook and YouTube your thoughts on how Black men have fared this year and help us gear up for next week's conversation or next episode's conversation as well. So with that, you have any questions you want to start off with, or should I just hit us with the first question of the day?
Let's start. You can start, Brandon.
All right, sounds good. So our first question is, what is your overall assessment of Black men during 2021? So what is your overall assessment of Black men during 2021?
Man, I think that this is it's not a loaded question, but I think that we have made some constructive progress, but I still think that overall it's been problematic. Black men are still continuing to suffer in a lot of areas, specifically economically. We know the mental health challenges that we have in our community. We've had small pockets of people that are in professional spaces that have done better economically. This has been, I think you and I talked about this pretty transparently. This has been my best years as a professional economically, really for the last 36 months. But I also know that is not overwhelming. The overwhelming story for a lot of Black men here in this part of the world, and I'd even say globally. I think the internet and I think Instagram and YouTube do a great job of highlighting certain people or giving the impression, but I still think there's a lot of work to do in a lot of areas. And I do think that one of the things, and I think you'll probably address this a little bit, I think I love the new voices that I'm seeing also on YouTube and all the opportunities that that this manosphere is giving a lot of people some constructive information and some content. So I like the fact that we are using our voices, Brandon. I like the fact that we're communicating a little bit more, and I like the fact that we're having conversations. The depth and the constructive content of those conversations is what has bothered me. I was on a live stream. Shout out to Anton, man. I was on a live stream this morning. I was listening to it. I think they was on there for like 11 hours. And I got on there and I said, we love intellectual masturbation. And because I'm like, they was talking about Haiti and women and something. And it's funny. It's one of the guys on there. I don't know who it was, but a lady was like, Aaron, you should come in and moderate. And I said, no, because a lot of this is just not constructive. Like, it's just not constructive. And I don't think that that's what Anton is looking for his content to be. I actually think that Anton is trying to help people, give them voices and have these conversations. I just think that we have to be a little bit more structured and a little bit more intentional. But overall, I think it's been constructive, but also very problematic. That's
absolutely. Yeah, it's the dichotomy of our existence, right? We have some progress and we have some setbacks at the same time. You know, like yourself, when I look at my own self, 2021 was a year of economic growth for myself as well. I probably have my best year in a long time. Just this year alone, and it's not even done yet. So yeah, for me personally, it's been great. Had a child, got a huge job, got on a bunch of boards. So when we talk about Black men attempting to make changes, institutional changes, that's what I've really focused this year on doing. So I'm doing a lot of things behind the scenes and some of the things in front of the scenes. Some of the things that I'm probably gonna get in trouble for too at some point in time when people connect some dots. But at the end of the day, my overall objective is to help push us forward as a people and help us kind of figure out some of these problems. And in order to do that, I have to be in rooms that many other Black men are not in. And I try to represent as well as I can when I'm in those spaces. So for me personally, yeah, it's been great. But similar to you, man, like there is this dichotomy. You know, on one end, I see black crime just skyrocketing all across the country. And most of that is young Black men. And that hurts me personally because it makes me feel like, man, damn, like no matter what we do, no matter how many conversations we intellectually masturbate with online, there's still this segment of brothers who ain't getting that information, and they're out here on demon time and they're just out here doing whatever they want to do. And then I see brothers out here really striving and making things happen. They're creating content. You know, folks like Anton. I know Anton's been on YouTube and been doing content for a long time, but I didn't come across him until a few months back. But just like his vision, I think is important to push us forward. But then I also see other examples like those dads that got together down in, I think it was in Louisiana, when they had that fight, when they had those fights happen at the school and those dads got together. Now, I don't know what has happened with that since, but I thought that was an effort to show up as Black men and to try to do something constructive. And I appreciate that. So, you know, I see the progress on some end. I know just like at any given time as individuals, you're going to have, Black men do really well. But then on the other end, collectively, have we really moved an inch forward or not? That's a hard question for us to ask. But I think as we continue to move forward and talk about it, not just intellectually masturbate on it, but actually like do things, network, and actually execute plans is going to be important. Because what I have seen is our counterparts, they're moving forward, man. Like I have seen, I'm just talking about these professional circles. Black women have their own creative spaces. They have people backing them for funding. They have networks, and it's beyond just sorority. So they're continuing to do their thing. And I feel like we have to not necessarily compete with them, but we have to do similar things for us to move and strive forward as well. Because at the end of the day, both are going to benefit our community.
Yeah, and I also would be, I'd be remiss without mentioning family. Is that I've made some great constructive progress with both of my sons, continuing to communicate, having conversations. I actually talked about this on a radio show I do here locally in Charlottesville, in my humble opinion. And I said, with all the things that we're seeing in the community, Brandon, with all the violence, with all the problematic things and this is not, and I have to say this is not stuff that people are just talking about on the news. I'm having conversations with, like, Brandon and I, we talk all the time off air. He's seeing it locally. I've got buddies in DC. I've got people in Atlanta. I've got all these people in these cities, and they're like, Aaron, this stuff is off the chain. And I said, the fact that I have 2 black sons, shout out to T, he's upstairs, 17, shout out to mother's son, C, he's about to graduate college. The fact that I'm involved and we're having constructive conversations and that they call me and still ask me for advice also means that they're reaching out to me and they're not looking for other places to get connected with other people that might not be doing some less constructive things. So the fact that my family and I are still connected is hugely, hugely important, because the number one thing that I see for a lot of black men, and you talked about the network, is that who are you connected with, and are those connections constructive or non-constructive? And typically with a lot of our young men, if they're out there doing some non-constructive things, they're kind of networking with each other because those are the only things that they know how to do. So that's extremely important. And in the professional spaces, I see the networking happening. It just has to happen a little bit more. We have to be a little bit more intentional, and we are behind in certain areas, but that's okay. That's okay. Acknowledging where we are, even if it is 4th and 40, it's still 4th and 40. We got a shot. We're still in the game. So I 100% agree with you. It's just continuing to move forward and having these difficult conversations. But there's a lot of things going on that we can continue to make progress with and do better at as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Our next question for today, get that ready to go, is what black man or black men stood out to you during the year of 2021?
I am going to say, I'm just going to use my background, but Rashad, the fellas that Earn Your Leisure. The fellas that Earn Your Leisure. Shout out to Shadi, shout out to Rashad, Troy, Ian Dunlap, all those guys. Because what I think that they have actually done, I actually think that it's underrated, because they have created. It's black men having constructive conversations about finance on a massive scale, and using the hip hop culture, using some of the things that typically would have been used against us, Brandon, and using it to help to promote financial wellness. I've seen them talk about real estate, credit, debt. And if you watch Market Mondays, or if you even listen to some of their content, it's not about selling you a book or anything of that nature. A lot of it is real constructive content. You need to have a budget. You need to take this seriously. We're getting left behind. We're talking about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, infrastructure. Their platform became so powerful that people in the background, or hedge funds, had actually people watching the program to see what stocks they're going to be talking about. Because we as black people, one of the things that we do, Brandon, we listen to
follow
people
a
that
trend,
we respect, and we follow a trend. So we are actually, in some small ways, not huge ways, but had impact this year, even on the stock market, running up numbers and things of that nature. They were the ones. Ian was the guy that told me, listen, you need to have more Apple stock than you do Apple products. That was real. And for me, it's just a mindset change. And so really, the guys that Earn Your Leisure, seeing black men on a massive scale, just talk constructively. It's not gossipy. It's not the shade room. It's basic financial principles, and it's just a platform that we need. So shout out to the fellas that Earn Your Leisure. What about you? What did you? What were some platforms or people this year that you found constructive?
Yeah, I found a couple. The biggest one, and I think we could talk about this individual all the time,
all day long,
is Mr. Samuels.
She's not here. She's not here tonight.
It's like saying Candyman. She'll pop in here once.
There you go.
But this is why, not because of how polarizing he's become with his comments, but how he's created a whole ecosystem around him. Before Kevin Samuels, if we didn't have him, we wouldn't have a lot of these platforms blow up the way they did. It's kind of weird. Literally a whole economic system has been formulated, both from black men, black women, and white content creators as well.
That's real, Brandon.
Around Kevin Samuels.
Yep.
And so I look at stuff like that. So one of the things that I've been interested in for like the last maybe 7, almost 8 years is just online marketing stuff. And I know Kevin was big on that too. And that's one of the things that when we used to have all those chats on BGS's channel, he would always come on and talk about is studying the internet. And he's just started applying all that stuff. And he's created a whole sphere, talking about a manosphere around himself, where we have literally content creators who have been created based off of his content, and people who have voice now based off of him. And I find that fascinating. And I also find it fascinating that he's got to that level of success that he has, talking about the stuff that he's talking about. Like, that's just immaculate. Like, it's crazy. Every time I see him pop up, I'm like, man, how the hell did we go from having these long 8-hour hangouts back when they used to have Google Hangouts to this? Like, it's crazy. So he's one person. On a more intellectual level, I came across these 2 black scholars, John McWhorter and Glenn Lowry. Now, these are 2 black men who were considered to be. Have you ever heard of the intellectual dark web?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm not familiar with the content. No.
All right. So the intellectual dark web is supposed to be people who have alternative thoughts. They're like scholars, and they just put things online. So Jordan Peterson's thrown in that category. The dude who does the Dark Horse podcast. These are white dudes. They even threw Joe Rogan. I can't even get his name out. Rogan in there as well. But they had some black dudes. I remember I came to this intellectual dark website, and I'm like, who are these black dudes? So I went and checked them out, and one of them was Glenn Lowry, who has been a professor, I think, at Brown University for years. He's an economics professor. And then John McWhorter, who's actually he's a linguist, and he studies linguistics, but he's written a couple books on race, and he actually just put out this book called Woke Racism. Now, I was very skeptical of both of these men. Now, they're intellectuals, and I float no spaces, so I can tolerate them. But when they started to break some stuff down about like how black people are being manipulated by leftist politics and talking points, then I was just like, whoa, they might be right on something. So I started paying more attention, and I was like, man, these 2 dudes have some information that we need to pay attention to. Now, they do get thrown into the conservative box, right? Even knowing I don't think John is a Democrat, but Glenn, I think, is an actual conservative. But I think their talking points, no matter what their political affiliations are important for us to understand and to think about as black people, because at the end of the day, they have our best interest in mind.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, we'll discredit them because they may have some talking points that may be considered to be conservative. But
they ain't telling Obama to brush their shoulder off.
No, they ain't doing any of that. They're not doing any Roland Martin talking points. No.
Right.
But John McWhorter is the one who really stands out to me, because I think his perspective on this is very. He uses a lot of. I don't think he knows who Mr. Nellie Fuller Jr. is, but he's very codified, and that's one thing that stands out to me. And I'm like, okay, this is someone who's really thinking through this stuff. He has gone after Robin DiAngelo. He's gone after Ta-Nehisi Coates. He's actually like had debates with these folks. And I found those things to be constructive. So those would be just 2 people. So John McWhorter, Kevin Samuels, and then another person who I think hasn't been as vocal, but you got to tip your hat and salute this man, is LeVar Ball. So we talked about. I was going to
talk about that. Yeah.
So I was going to do a podcast. This is when I started doing the Jegna podcast at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And I was supposed to have a LeVar Ball podcast, but I kept canceling because something kept happening, and I never went back and did it. And I wish I would have, because now this season we're seeing all the things that he predicted. All 3 of his sons have made it to the NBA.
That's incredible.
Right? At their own level.
That's incredible.
That is insane, dude. And he's never played professional basketball. Usually when you see that, it's usually the sons or the daughters of other athletes, but not this time. Like, for him to determine and him to be as vocal, use his platform, use his creativity, use his genetics to get his kids to the NBA is insane. And LaMelo, he's another one's going to be the face of NBA.
Oh, he's a hooper. He's a hooper, dude. He's a hooper.
Man. Lonzo's a baller. He's not a superstar, but he's a baller.
They hoopers, man. They hoopers.
And the other brother, the middle brother, Jello, he's Jello. At the end of the day, he's just gonna be around. But man, you got to put some respect on LeVar Ball's name. I don't care if he's got a white wife. That don't matter to me. The black man said, I'm putting my black sons in the NBA. And he made it happen.
No, Brandon, I 100% agree. And I think Shannon Sharp said something the other day that was fascinating. He said, people need to start talking about LeVar Ball the way that they talk about Archie Manning.
Dang, yeah, I would agree.
I mean, he said, because you think about it, you got two kids that are playing at the highest level of professional athletics / entertainment. And he was very intentional. He was very intentional about where he thought them to be. Actually, we can also even throw him in and I know a lot of people are making him problematic now, but he hit it. Ian just hit it. We're talking about Richard Williams as well, being extremely intentional about his girls. Now, we always talk about this, and let's just put it out there right now. Okay, let's just do this right now.
Let's do it.
Two things can be true.
Yep.
Richard Williams did a fantastic job in grooming and teaching Serena and Venus Williams on how to be professional tennis stars and impacting their lives. He also could be and was possibly a poor father to the children that he had in his original relationship. Two things can be true. I'm not understanding the debate on the film, because the movie was about the impact he had on their lives. Why are people expecting Venus and Serena to tell a story about somebody else that they weren't even having? You understand what I'm saying, Brand? Right. They weren't even in their lives with them.
Right.
If that girl wants to make a documentary about how dusty Richard Williams was when he wasn't in their life, she has the authority to do that. You can go ahead and do that. But that's not their story. And they even mentioned it in the movie. But did you expect for Venus and Serena to dog this guy?
No, I would hope not.
I didn't expect that.
Why make the movie if you're going to do that?
I didn't expect that. So I think that's one of the controversies in the dichotomy of men and the dichotomy of humans. We are very problematic. That doesn't take away that he was poor in one area and did an okay constructive job in another one. Two can be true. And I think that we have to just learn how to deal with that. And think about it, because we like to prop up celebrities so much, Brandon. You can look at every single one of them. Somebody's going to be problematic. And simply, Nick, I agree. There's always has to be a negative spin when it comes to black men.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. But unfortunately, that is very, very true.
Yeah. Man, that was a little disheartening that how that movie got attacked. And I don't even believe people even watched the movie. I think they just realized it was about their father, and they just went down a rabbit hole of hatred. Black male misandry for sure. Unfortunately. Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, man, I think, at the end of the day, I think that there's there's probably black men that we're not even talking about that have been pretty impactful during this year. Like I even look at, just to keep it on the YouTube streets, like Lead Attorney, Anton, Lapeef Network, and just seeing them platforms blow up and attempting to do something constructive and keep conversations going around for black men. And yeah, a lot of it's based around relationships. But I think it's starting to gear towards more personal development and business, which I think is always helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some construction guys that I follow that are doing some really, really great work. So I'm gonna try to pull up their names before we get done. Ramon Tukes, he's on Instagram. You guys, if you have any questions about financing and real estate, Ramon Tukes runs some great programs here in Atlanta and on the East Coast in reference to renovations, real estate development. Glenn Glasper, he's another guy that I've had meetings with. These are all guys that are in these YouTube streets and that are making moves. So there's enough information out there for everybody. It's just, there's some opportunities out there to take advantage of everything. Absolutely.
So Ramon, University of Wealth Building? Is that him?
Ramon Tukes. Ramon Tukes and Glenn Glasper. He teaches a great class on real estate wholesaling as well. I mentioned Earn Your Leisure before. Y'all can check them out, EYL University, and then also Ian Dunlap, the Master Investor. There's just a lot of this, man. There's so many people. It's just so many people, y'all. And these people are really for Black men and Black women making constructive progress and making some money and having some infrastructure and building things for our families. So kudos to you guys. Kudos to you guys. And also one more person.
Go for it.
Also one last person. Brandon himself. For being I'm very serious, man, because I'm giving you your flowers now, but Brandon didn't know me from a can of paint, and he found me on, shout out to Philippe, but we were just having a conversation, and Brandon was like, I think that guy might know what he's talking about a little bit. and we decided to do a podcast together. But the work that Brandon has done in the mental health spaces for myself and my family personally, but also for him professionally as well. We need more young and specifically young Black men. And because I think Brandon's perspective is very well needed as a millennial, because a lot of times the voices that we hear, I'll be honest, they're getting a little bit outdated, and they're not keeping up with as progressive as we need to be. We need some new, young, fresh ideas and people that still believe in a Black perspective, but also can tell us exactly where we are and what they think the future is looking like. And Brandon is a proponent for people healing. And I don't think we talk about that enough. We hear people on mainstream media like Charlemagne, they're talking about it's very concepty. But Brandon, it's very concepty. But Brandon and his name forgot me, but I call him your OG. What's the OG?
Sam Simmons.
And Sam. But Brandon and Sam, we did a podcast early in the year. If you guys didn't watch it, go check it out. But talking about Black family trauma. Those conversations, I've had people even come up to me and say, hey, the first podcast you guys did on Black men and mental health, and then the one we did with Sam about talking about family issues and dysfunction have been extremely constructive, because these are the elephants in the room that we don't like to talk about, but everybody sees it every day, Brandon. Everybody sees it every day. Your mama's tripping. Your dad is tripping. You know what I'm saying? You're not crazy, but we need to have these conversations. So kudos to guys like Brandon and the other professionals that are in these spaces that are doing the work, because let's be real. This is hard work.
It is.
It's hard work. It's exhausting, but we as professionals, we're here, and that's what we're here to do. So kudos to Brandon.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. I was not expecting that answer at all.
That's right.
Since we're tooting my horn, I did win an award this past week on Friday. I got put into the Youth Worker Hall of Fame locally here in Minnesota. So, I thought I had my trophy, but I remember I packed it in my bag to take to the office tomorrow, but I would put it on display. But it was a recognition for the work that I have done and I continue to do for young people. But again, you're right when you say that this is hard work. You wouldn't think it is because you're talking about people. But as a Black male therapist, you hold so many secrets. And I don't think that people think about that. Like, I know a lot of deep, dark stuff about a lot of folks. Some folks that you all talk to or listen to on
right. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I know these things, but not that I want to expose them or put them out there.
Yeah, we're not even doing that. Yeah.
But it's the fact that, as somebody who's kind of taken, and literally as a therapist, you take an oath to do this work. You hold on to a lot of that pain that people have. And then when you see them not, working through it, or their healing process not going, you feel for those people. And then when they do well, you feel for those people as well. You have a different level of appreciation for where they come from and what they do. And it just amazes me, because I have people reach out to me all the time. I don't even take individual clients anymore because I just don't have time. Right, but at the end of the day, I always have my clinical ear on and my counseling space on. Yeah. And I hope that more people are interested in doing this type of work. And if you are interested, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always here to help navigate people to get to this level where they can help folks and make a living doing it too. Because it doesn't, therapy is not cheap, and you can't make a good living doing it, but you have to be smart at the same time. One thing that I don't mention is I do a lot of mentoring as well. I don't I don't have a lot of time to do it, but I do. And I mentor young people, usually young Black men. And I always work with students, young Black people who are trying to be therapists. I meet with them on Zoom. I probably meet with about 2 or 3 students a month, just checking in on them, seeing what they need, how our class is going. Do you want me to review a paper? I'm always down to help get students to this level, because there's not enough of us doing this healing work. So I hope in 2022 we start seeing more content, especially on YouTube, that is pumping this healing narrative and helping Black people move forward. Because you're right, man. Charlemagne, he's doing what he needs to do. He's bringing people into the mindset to do their healing. But it is very just concept-y. Like, yeah, everybody has anxiety and we can move through. Like, yeah, that's true. But you have to be practical and intentional about your well-being if you want to get better, not just having these catchy phrases and stuff. So it is important work. And I hope that, I can continue to make an impact as I move forward. So.
Yeah, your mental health is important. I can tell you guys, like I said, I'm transparent. $200 every month, $2,400 a year for my therapist. Shout out to Mike. I'm from Fredericksburg, but
absolutely.
That much. It means that much. So some of y'all, if y'all got them Starbucks cards, you need to stop going to KFC and Popeyes and go see that therapist and stop playing. So, hey, Shaw, what's going on, girl?
Yeah. All right. So, our next question, keep us rolling for today. What do you think is the biggest lesson Black men learned during 2021?
The biggest lesson, Brandon?
The biggest lesson, yeah.
You got an idea? You go first, man.
For one lesson. So for me, I think one thing that we learned is that we have to be more disciplined and responsible for our words and our actions.
Okay.
And I say that because damn near every month we've seen a Black man fail publicly and it become viral. From Joe Budden to Derek Jackson to Glendon Cameron to Antonio Brown.
Shit, I forgot about Antonio. Lord.
I mean, I can keep going.
He just fell last week. Him and his teammate. What y'all doing over there? Fake backs cards? I was just trolling when I talked about it. I didn't think people was really doing it. But
no, they really out here doing it, man.
These fools.
Yeah, I mean, who else? I mean, there's been so many. I'm forgetting who to even name. But just look at those four guys in general. They all fumbled the bag. I mean, how many times have we hopped on and talked about fumbling the bag and people doing stuff? And it ain't all about money. A lot of it's about your character and your reputation. And a lot of people are jeopardizing it, making silly mistakes, doing stuff, being sloppy, being messy, and not handling your business. And now they have to, they have to shuffle, they have to shift. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons is like we have to be better. We have to be more intentional with our actions and more accountable and disciplined with our tongues and what we're saying, because people are watching now. Like the eyes are on us. Like, one thing I learned from Tyler from Black and Married with Kids. What's Tyler's last name? Him and his wife. You ever heard of Black and Married with Kids?
The name sounds familiar.
I can't remember that. Okay. All right. So that was a big online blog for Black and Married folks with kids. And Tyler and his wife, they created this huge like online marketing and media company, and they've helped a lot of people that we know, April Mason, folks like that.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been, working together in that kind of Atlanta online content space, and they've supported each other. It's a network. And one of the things, Tyler, he's the male component of the Black and Married with Kids folks. One thing that he created was he had put out this book called The Gatekeepers Are Gone. This is like 2015, maybe 2016.
Yeah, you mentioned that book previously.
Yeah, because it was such an eye-opening thing where he was saying, look, Black folks, like this is our opportunity. We talk about wealth gaps. We talk about employment gaps. We talk about people not letting us get on. Well, the internet has kind of ceased a lot of that. And it's time for us to hop on our horse and keep it pushing. And I always think back about how the gatekeepers are gone. And now that the gatekeepers are gone and we can get into these lanes, like literally we have Black folks who are creating their own news channels. We have Black folks. I mean, Kevin Samuels is pretty much a nighttime talk show at this point. He's getting better numbers than some TV shows. Bro. We have lanes.
Yeah, a million subscribers. Million subscribers.
That's crazy. I mean,
on this man's internet. Shout out to Erica. Yeah. Right.
Erica Williams. I mean, we talk about men, but Erica's probably one of the best content creators out here. She should be at 1 billion subscribers easy.
Yeah.
But but again, I mean, she talks about this too. The gatekeepers are gone. Our opportunities are there. So as Black men, we don't have a lot of excuses. So when we get to a certain level of success or notoriety or influence, we can't be out there sloppy and messy, man. And we've just seen Black men over and over and over just kind of come in and just mess that up, which is crazy. So
yeah. I think that one of the biggest lessons that, and like I said, I'm here, I'm present, but I'm bringing it back to you. I think you being public, this is for me personally, you being public about the circumstances with your daughter was extremely important, and the black family dynamic. Because even on, Brandon's gonna have 1 billion subscribers, but he ain't got them yet. Okay, but even in Brandon's immediate circle, the impact of you sharing something that has happened to a lot of other black families, having a premature baby, having to be able to balance, having the anxiety, Brandon, that goes through that. Because listen, we're looking at it as a picture. You and your wife are literally sitting down every day thinking about your daughter. Like this is it's very different than how everyone else is internalizing it. But I think it's important for people, for your wife, for people to share these stories. We weren't there every single day, but hey, she's doing well. This is the dynamic that my wife is going to the hospital every single day.
Every day.
I'm here. These girls are acting like they Venus and Serena, and they're running this whole house and driving me crazy, and we're still managing it. Right. Here's the reason why, Brandon, because the black family and you can still have healthy black relationships.
Right.
And a lot of people are not talking about that. I heard somebody say, I think it might have been the Crimson Cure. Shout out to Kendra. And what she said was that people think that the 305s, that's the word she used.
Yeah.
These 305s.
304s.
The 304s are winning. And I'm just listening to her. I'm like, Kendra is crazy. But she says, sweetheart, you have a husband, you have a family, you guys are safe. You have provision and protection. That is winning. Stop paying attention to this internet stuff. You are doing well. Stop looking at Brittany Renner. Your life is okay. Your family is healthy. Your family is safe. And Brandon, and I'm just sitting there, just thinking about what she's saying, and I'm like, you know what? We have really gone as black men, and I'm just saying the family dynamic. We have gone so far left to looking at celebrities and to looking at internet and to looking at all these factors that everything is exacerbated. And we think that we have to be, basically everybody wants to live an episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Let's just be real. Everybody. Whereas there's a certain level of contentment that the black family needs to have, also pushing forward, but we should be content with our partners. We should be content with our families. And I think if we develop that certain spirit, a lot of things will change, because a lot of the messiness that you're talking about, Brandon, let's be real, it comes from gluttony. It comes from being selfish, and it comes from not being content about where you are. That's a lesson that I'm learning, is that man, you're in a really, really good spot. Your family's safe. You have a good structure. You don't need all this. You know what I'm saying? You don't need everything. Yeah. But we want to build more infrastructure, but it has to be positioned properly. So I just think even the conversations that Will and Jada were having, that a lot of people were uncomfortable. A lot of people were just like uncomfortable with.
Oh boy.
But I even like Will's statement on just saying, dude, I'm just trying to figure out what love is, man. I'm trying to be the best person. And he might not be perfect at it, but I applaud that family for being the billboard of whatever they're being. Most people would not take those bullets, Brandon. Let's be real. They don't have the capacity to do it. And so there's just a lot of different lessons. But back to the original point, families like you, people that are willing to talk about having a husband and a wife and a family, and that's okay. And you're not walking around in Burberry all damn day. No, you don't have to walk around in Burberry, y'all. You don't. Your kids ain't wearing Gucci. They're okay.
My kids is not wearing Gucci.
I don't understand this foolishness, but I'm telling you, y'all think I'm exaggerating. People are trying to live. You can have a healthy black family, and you can design it whatever way you want it to look. You got to get these people out of your YouTube brain and out of these YouTube streets, man.
Yeah, I mean, and don't throw away YouTube, because I think YouTube's very valuable.
No. I'm just saying, absolutely. Yeah. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
But I want to go back to your point about, you mentioned being content, and I think for men, and I'm going to stick with us for tonight.
Yes.
For us, I think that's one of the overarching goals for men, is being content. But we have in Black community, we have so many infeminized men, and that has nothing to do with their sexual orientation or gender expression, but they're infeminized in their behavior and nature that they don't know how to be content. We have men who are trying to nest, and that's technically a female nature component, not a male nature. Men look for content, right? We typically, most men, especially in marriages, if all our things are taken care of, all our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted, we're set, right? Get your sex when you want your sex. You don't have a lot of noise around you. You got your own space. Nobody's messing up your stuff.
Yes.
Peace, content. That's what most men engage in. That's what most men desire to have.
Right.
But we have 3 decades of what I would say infeminized men who their order has been flipped completely 180, and they don't know how to do that. So they end up being out of order,
right?
Out of their nature, and that's why we have the conversations, the intellectual masturbating, as you call it, online, and they're bickering and complaining about things that they should not even care about if they had their things in order. That's honestly one of the reasons why I drifted away from a lot of the red pill content, because I got what I needed to get out of it, and then it wasn't applicable to me. Yeah. I wasn't trying to talk about, the dating and all that stuff, because I wasn't out here dating. I was helping other people with their dating stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when it comes to 304s, or as you call them, 305s, now 304s spend a lot of time in 305, so I can see how you got that mixed up, Miami style in the building. But for me, my interest level in a 304 is very low.
It's very low.
Because at this point, I'm just trying to prevent my children from not becoming 304. So my direction has shifted.
Absolutely.
So again, there's levels of development that go into this.
Yeah.
And I think that what we're seeing in this space, and I hope for the next year, what we'll get away from is guys just stuck in the dating thing. Because I mean, you hear these hangouts, man. You listen to them. I pop in and out. You'll have some 47-year-old dude complaining about some 26-year-old woman's behavior, and it's like, bro, she ain't even checking for you, dude. She's not
even on your. She don't even know who you are,
and you up all night complaining about her, and she living her best life. Even if it is dysfunctional from a red pill standpoint, she's enjoying it in the moment, and you up here frustrated. So it's like, at the end of the day, those of us who are handling our business and doing the things that we need to do, do we have our bumps in the roads, and do we still need to have some of that red pill content? Absolutely. Yeah. It's a self-check. It's almost like looking in the mirror sometimes.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we have to keep moving forward. So,
I mean, these dudes, they complain about these women. They talk about they're going to go to Colombia and Africa. You ain't got no passport. You got a 504 credit score. How you getting there, bro? You ain't got no savings.
Hold on. Let's say they do have it, right? Let's say they go to the DR.
They go.
Colombia. Listen, a lot of those women are on Facebook and they'll friend you, right? Because they out here running their scheme.
I already know where you're going. Yeah,
yes. So these dudes be in the Facebook Messenger thinking it's lit, because they got some chick who's doing her Wi-Fi 304 behavior. And then they get down there, and what happened? They get finessed because they ain't got no game here, and they damn well ain't gonna have no game when they get to Argentina. So they listen, man. Even if they do have the passport, the rules to the game still apply. This is where I had to disconnect, because I'm not trying to make this about me, but I never had an issue with young girls. So
I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know what that is either.
And I'm not trying to say I had super game or anything like that. I just wasn't scared. Right. And when I hear these dudes who are 10 years my senior, I'm like, man, these dudes, man, they don't know how to talk to women. So they get frustrated and mad, and then they're talk about sexual marketplace value. Their sexual marketplace value is way out of there, and they want women that they can't get and couldn't get at the time when they did have that level of age and all that, and then they're just frustrated. So then what do? They say, I'm out. They're passport bros, and they're going to pay for it. They're going to start tricking, and then they're tricking cheap. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about the DR. Yeah, you can have a good time for $400 in the DR, man. Come on now. Stop playing.
You're gonna bring something back.
You gotta bring a couple things back.
It might be a girl, a baby, and a bill. Like, cause you think she gonna be that? Jackpot. Listen, and you live at Brandon, and see this dudes be lying because they go here, they get these girls, but what they don't do, because I got a homie, they don't tell the girl that they are suffering here in the United States.
Right.
So shorty come back. Oh, you live in the United States. Oh, this is right. Wait a minute, bro. What are we doing?
Listen, man. Most of these men
why are we living in an efficiency when the regular rents around here is only $600? What is happening right now? What did you bring me?
Hey, listen. I went and got me a woman who will submit. I don't care what you gotta say. She's submitting. She's gonna submit this efficiency. She's gonna make sure it's clean every day. And she gonna
let me hit you to some games. She is not making no arroz con pollo for you, bro. That is not happening.
No bueno.
No bueno. It ain't happening. Oh
man. But this is the mentality. But this is the mentality. Now everybody's not gonna be a Dennis Sperling. Now Dennis has had success.
Shout out to D, man. Yeah.
He's another dude that I got a lot of respect for. So he can go down to Colombia, wherever he went, and do his thing. But he had it before he went down there. He was married.
Here.
He was married. He had kids. He had all these things. And these dudes, man. I mean, but again, it's the fantasy thinking. And we see this with these men online. We see this with the brothers in the hood, where they don't have plans. They have fantasies, right? Because it's easy to fantasize about a life that you desire. It's hard to put the action steps in place to get it. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. And these dudes don't feel like they have the time to even do it. But all the tools and skills are right here. That's what I'm saying. Like the gatekeepers are gone. Here. If you really want those women, you can scoop them up here. They're already here. You got to know where to find them.
Beautiful sisters here. And some of them are even cooperative, Brandon. Oh my gosh, some of them we even will cooperate. Yeah.
Some of them are my friends. I know. Yeah. I feel bad for them. They're all fine and they're all single. Man, I wish I could multiply myself sometimes. But no, listen. Let me ask you a question.
I know them too. Yeah, what you got?
Why do you think the women that we're talking about are never brought into the equation? Like even when they talk about like the hood chicks, right? They never talk about like the suburban black chick or the chick that's just kind of in the middle or the nerdy black girl who likes anime or any of that or is a creative or an artist. They don't talk about none of them women. And I see them all the time and they look good. And they don't talk about them girls
all day long.
Why do you think they skip over all these other types of women and they just talk about the Instagram models?
Because that means that you have to change your standard, and they inherently know that they are not falling for this foolishness you were talking about on this man's internet. That is a fact. They know that. People can see you coming from a mile away. They see you coming. You're talking about an IG girl that you would never even talk to. She don't even know you. She's not even talking to you. And the other thing is that it's more, you have to also examine yourself, because it gets into the conversation that Kevin talks about a little bit, is that nobody wants to talk about. Yeah. Black men and black women need to start getting together wherever you are and having relationships. Right. Throw this high value nonsense. This is not love and hip hop. This is real life. He might make 80 and you make 30. Figure it out. She might make 90 and he make 40. Figure it out. He might make $500,000 and she might make $750. Figure it out. That is the message that nobody wants to talk about. Now, are there intricacies in those relationships due to trauma and some of the black experience? 100%. But there are a lot of, and Brandon, I'm with you. Talk to these females out here. They're beautiful. They're smart. Aaron, I'm just looking for a dude that can have a conversation and he ain't crazy. That is what I hear a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, do you read a book? like the last book you read cannot be The Shade Room. Like that is not, you know what I'm saying? And the conversations, and that's the way the conversations are. Can you have a conversation with somebody. And so these women, guys say that they don't exist, Brandon. I'm with you. They do.
Man.
They do. And there's a lot of them.
Sometimes I'm like, is this just a Minnesota thing? Like,
no.
I mean, now some of them I wouldn't talk to because they are a little out there, but some of them ain't. I mean, I know women who look good. They got good jobs, even though it's not a selection criteria. Yeah. They can have an intellectual conversation. They ain't got no kids. They work out and they single, bro. Like, it's like, because the dudes that they would have chose already got selected. that's like
and they're looking for black men too, and they are specifically looking for black men.
That's another good point. Like, I can think of. I mean, I can show you on Facebook. I ain't gonna out them on this show, but I can think of at least 5 women right now that I know personally.
I got about 4 right now. I'm thinking about some.
I'm like, man, there's no reason that she's a bridesmaid again. Like, there's no reason. Like, what's going on? Yeah. But anyway, so part of me wonders, like, I feel like the complaining is there's a level of soothing or comfort in the complaining and not having anything, because a lot of these dudes, if they did reach that success and strike gold, they would lose the community of the manosphere and that sense of belonging, and they wouldn't know what to do with it. I feel like that's part of the problem, but that's a whole nother conversation that we can get a lot deeper with later on. So anyway, last question for the night, and then we'll wrap it up. I think I skipped over a question. This should have been before, but who's one black man you found valuable information or content from during 2021? So we already talked about a few folks. Anybody you want to specifically shout out? I know Earn the Leisure was one of your one of the groups, but anyone else?
It's funny because Ian's highlight says we are critiquing conversation and making unfounded extrapolations that don't touch the real social political issues that T. Hassan and Green Gorilla talk about. The funny thing is that you and I both listen to
all the people we
listen to all of the I've had conversations with Dr. Curry. I've interviewed him. I was part of an interview with him on the cows. I bought his first 2 books. He's had conversations with my dad. So I don't necessarily agree with their expectations. I think I would say this, Brandon. Those guys, and I think even some of these guys would agree that T. Hassan, Tommy Curry, and the Green Gorilla, they would tell you that they are in the minority of a lot of these talking points.
Yes, they're all scholars.
They are scholars, and they are in the minority because the overwhelming content that we're seeing, overwhelmingly, not all, but a lot of the commentary that is, I don't know who the Facebook user is that's saying you better say me. So I don't know. Is that Greg? Is that Greg or Philippe? Or who's that? Or
I'll find out.
We'll find out. But a lot of the content is based upon these talking points. So I'm not disagreeing with Ian, but he knows this. You can go in the algorithm. A little bit is going to show T. Hassan and Green Gorilla. A lot of it is going to show Alpha this. It's an easy talking point to get on. We know that the smart people are not talking. Ian, you're correct. But we know that the smart people are not the ones talking. They're doing a little bit of talking, but who has the biggest voice? So those are things. We're not disagreeing with you, Ian, and I appreciate the content. So, man, I can't, man. Anton, I could just say Anton. I was in Anton's Patreon program. Anton saved me thousands of dollars and helped me do some investing. And I just like the fact that he has a lot of conservative views, Anton Daniels. He has a lot of conservative views, but he's a black man that has a black family, and he's very intentional. Some of Anton's views is I'm picking your husband for you, for his daughter.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing. Let's go, Mr. Fuller. Let's go to Mr. Fuller. Why continue to do something that is not working for the community? Anton could be right. He could be right. All ideas are to be considered in this system. So yeah, Anton's the one that immediately comes to mind, just because I've had personal interaction with him, personal conversations, talked to him on the phone a few times, and he is a genuinely solid, good dude that really just wants to see brothers win, but he's outside the box. He's not Hotepi. He's a little more conservative, but he doesn't talk about black family. He shows you black family.
Wow. Yeah, Anton's a good answer. I'm going to go with somebody who's a little less known than Anton. And there's a young dude by the name of Black Gen Z Mindset.
Okay.
So Black Gen Z Mindset. You think he's about 23, 24 years old, former University of Georgia football player. and he's making content, and he's talking about Generation Z, what they're seeing in dating. He's talking about personal development. He's talking about the crazy crime and stuff that's going on in the community. So he has a vast range of talking points. But I think that he's a young brother who definitely is going to be a star on these YouTube streets for sure, and sharing good constructive content from a generation that's behind me. So I appreciate him. So yeah, man. And then the person who said y'all better say me is Greg West. Shout out to brother Greg.
Big G, what up? What up, Big G? That's my homie, man. That's my homie.
Yeah.
I just talked to Greg. Greg just called me out. Greg just called me out the blue the other day. Greg is doing some awesome stuff in Ohio. I know he just got a new position in the union, I think, and he's got some fantastic things that he does with the men in Alcoholics Anonymous as well. I know he's a mentor and been a sponsor for that for years. So Greg is one of the real guys that is on the ground doing the work. And I mean, dealing with men, trying to get them in position. Everybody, if you don't know Greg's story, he's a great, great guy. So shout out to Greg, man. You know I got love for you, bro. Appreciate you, man.
Right. Shout out to Mr. West. All right, sir. 3 minutes left. You want to close us out?
Man, 2021 has been a great year, but I just think that I think we're going to talk about this in the next episode. This thing is going to look real different, man. This thing is going to look real different. Yeah, even what we consider a Black community, Mr. Fuller hates that word, and I'm beginning to hate it too. But what we imagine and what we think it's going to be, it's not. Yeah. And I think we have to start to get adjusted. It's going to look different. We're going to have our different enclaves, but I think that it's going to look different, but that doesn't mean that we can't be successful and have constructive progress. But I think we do need to change some of the ideas. I think we need to change some of our political affiliations. I think we as a group, we need to start as Black men, we need to be a little bit more intentional and progressive. I think I've told this story, but I'm going to tell it one more time. I think it's a good way. Is that the company I work for got bought out by a big Japanese company about maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I first got here. And I was appointed to yeah, okay. But and they rolled out, Brandon, a 100-year plan for what they want, what the vision of their company is going to be.
That's very typical of a lot of Asian cultures. They plan centuries,
centuries. and mind you, maybe other people have been exposed to that, but I was not. And even some of the other white guys was in the room like 100 years, bro. I'm thinking about 20. And I was like, they are so intentional about what they want their community to look like. As a matter of fact, what they want the infrastructure to look like for their children that they don't even know.
Yeah.
And that was
legacy
fascinating to me. So I was fascinated, Brandon. I was also grieved. I was hurt. I felt shame because I was like, what? I felt shame because I'm like, what are we like? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we even thinking that far down the line? As a group collective, a lot of us, and maybe some of us are, and that's what Ian was talking about. Maybe we need to have some more of those men talking, but I think that we have to be more intentional about our communities, healthy families, and constructive progress. It's got to be intentional, and we have to be serious about it. As Mr. Fuller says, what are you serious about? And the results would show not much of anything.
Well, our next show will be in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about 2022 and being more intentional and serious. I want to thank Brother Greg West, Simply Neek, Char Willie in the building, Ian Graves, who had a lot of comments. Appreciate it, Ian. I don't know if this is your first time with us, but definitely come back, especially in our next show, because I think that the comments that you have will fit very well with our conversations that we're going to have moving forward.
Look, Ian said extrapolation, so we got it. I ain't heard that word in like 2 years, so shout out to Ian.
Yeah, and he knows the code, so I'm down with that for sure. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. Everybody be safe, be constructive, and be well. We'll holler at y'all in 2 weeks. Peace.